Hello, everyone. I'm excited and very happy to kick off the 5th annual Zoohackathon today. I'm Jonathan Moore, and I head the Bureau of Oceans and International Environmental and Scientific Affairs at the U.S. Department of State. We are a team of over 200 diplomats working on issues from the depths of the oceans to the vastness of outer space. And today we're going to talk about wildlife. Due to the unprecedented challenges caused by COVID-19, I can't be with you in person, but I want to thank you for participating in this important project. Wildlife trafficking spreads disease just like COVID-19. 60% of infectious diseases and 75% of emerging pathogens in humans are zoonotic in origin. These diseases then spread to humans, especially when humans or domesticated animals come in direct contact with wildlife. Wildlife trafficking, wildlife consumption for food and medicine, and illegal encroachment into wildlife habitat are forms of contact that drive the emergence of zoonotic disease. High-risk wildlife wet markets, in which wildlife is slaughtered and sold alongside many different species, are hotbeds for both wildlife trafficking and the emergence of zoonotic disease. These markets are not well regulated or inspected for legality or public health and hygiene standards. COVID-19 has raised global attention to the risks that wildlife trafficking and consumption pose for zoonotic disease emergence and spread. My team and I work with governments all over the world to strengthen law enforcement, reduce demand for illegal wildlife products, and build international cooperation to end wildlife trafficking. We believe that technological innovations are a crucial way to help combat wildlife crime. And this is exactly where you and Zoohackathon come in. We are asking you to come up with creative technology solutions to stop this illicit and dangerous trade in wildlife. I genuinely hope you learn from each other. We look forward to learning from you, that you are inspired, that you take the opportunity to ask lots of questions, as well as educate your friends and family about what you learn throughout this weekend. With that, I wish you all the best of luck again with the 5th annual Zoohackathon. Thanks very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie McCourt, U.S. Ambassador to France and Monaco. I'm so glad to be with you to kick off this first ever European Regional Zoohackathon. Right up front, I must admit, until COVID took over, I had never heard the word zoonotic in my life. And I studied linguistics at Georgetown. So here we are, faced with ever greater threats from wildlife trafficking. The nefarious market for rare and endangered animals not only spreads disease, but also fuels corruption, robs communities of prosperity, and pushes species to extinction. There's a lot at stake in this project, which is why I'm thrilled you are applying your skills as engineers, researchers, and programmers to find tools we can use to stop wildlife trafficking once and for all. Innovation and the pursuit of new approaches has been a driving force in my own career, long before President Trump asked me to represent him and the American people here in France. I'm an angel investor and an ardent supporter of startups in my business endeavors. And it goes without saying, but I say it anyway, that my best startups are my 4 boys. And I'm happy to see all of you taking a similar approach with this project. Thank you to our judges and mentors, experts in new technologies, project management, wildlife trafficking, conservation, and more. You are essential to ensuring this program has a big impact. And lastly, good luck to all the teams participating this weekend from all across Europe. Think creatively, get inspired, work hard, and hone your skills. I look forward to hearing about your solutions to these zoonotic challenges, and more importantly, their real-world impact on lives and communities across the world.
Mesdames, Messieurs, chers amis, je vous remercie de me donner la possibilité de vous dire quelques mots à l'occasion de l'ouverture de cet événement, le Zoohackathon, organisé cette année par l'ambassade des États-Unis à Paris. Je voudrais d'abord remercier et féliciter nos amis américains pour cette initiative très intéressante qui permet à de jeunes talents dans le domaine des technologies et de l'information de s'impliquer dans cette cause de la protection de l'environnement et de proposer des solutions innovantes pour mieux protéger la vie sauvage sur notre planète. Je sais que la jeunesse française et américaine est déjà très mobilisée et très sensibilisée aux enjeux de protection de notre planète. C'est d'ailleurs un des principaux motifs d'espoir que nous avons dans notre lutte commune contre le trafic d'espèces menacées. Comme vous le savez, ces trafics constituent une activité criminelle souvent organisée à l'échelle internationale, qu'il est essentiel de combattre avec détermination. Selon l'Union internationale pour la conservation de la nature, pour un quart des mammifères terrestres en danger de disparition, la chasse illégale constitue la principale menace. Destinée principalement au prélèvement de viande, mais aussi de parties animales utilisées en médecine traditionnelle, cette pratique, encouragée par le trafic international, a des conséquences en cascade désastreuses, sur les milieux naturels comme sur la sécurité alimentaire des populations locales. La France et les États-Unis mènent ce combat à l'échelle nationale et internationale avec des résultats encourageants. Par exemple, le dernier rapport de l'Office des Nations Unies contre les drogues et le crime sur la criminalité environnementale de 2020 met en avant la baisse à l'échelle mondiale du braconnage des éléphants et des rhinocéros. Bien sûr, il reste énormément à faire, mais ces résultats montrent qu'une action concertée et déterminée des États peut être efficace. Cette lutte, nous devons la mener pour le bénéfice des plantes et des animaux menacés, mais aussi et surtout pour notre propre existence. Les trafics d'espèces menacées ont des impacts très graves sur la vie et les êtres humains. Ils affectent les économies locales, par exemple en empêchant l'activité touristique génératrice de nombreux emplois dans les zones de braconnage. Ils ont évidemment des impacts sur la sécurité des personnes et sur notre santé. Nous traversons actuellement une redoutable crise sanitaire et l'OMS a mis en évidence que 75% des nouvelles maladies infectieuses apparues ces 30 dernières années trouvent leur origine dans la vie sauvage. La semaine dernière, dans son nouveau rapport, l'IPBES a souligné que sans prévention et préservation de la biodiversité, des pandémies bien plus graves que celle de la Covid étaient à venir. De plus en plus d'articles scientifiques mettent cela en évidence et les corrélations entre changements environnementaux globaux, perte de biodiversité et émergence de l'augmentation des maladies infectieuses sont mis en évidence. Le risque zoonotique est clairement accru par l'érosion de la biodiversité. Alors si c'était encore nécessaire, j'espère vous avoir convaincu de la nécessité de vos travaux et je serai évidemment à vos côtés pour les mener. Je vous souhaite une imagination féconde et de l'audace pour nous proposer des solutions concrètes et opérationnelles. Vous participez ainsi à la sauvegarde de notre planète et de nos propres vies. La biodiversité, c'est le vivant, c'est nous. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to make sure that you can hear me. Can you hear me now? Yeah?
Yes, we can.
Yeah? Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen with all the audience. And first of all, I would like to double check that when I move my slide deck, can you see it? Yeah?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, awesome. At the moment, I cannot see my presentation on the screen on YouTube, just to let you know to the technical team. Okay, so there is some delay. Okay, perfect. So thank you so much and welcome to the European Zoohackathon 2020. My name is Fabrice Ossa. I am the founder of the Free Spirit Foundation, and it is a great honor to welcome all the people attending this session, this ceremony. Thank you to all our partners for joining us. And first of all, I would like to say a big thank you to the US Department of State and also to the US Embassy in Paris. Thank you. We co-host that initiative together, and we are very happy, and it's a great honor for us for organizing that session for the European area. So thank you to the US government for your trust and for letting us the opportunity to try to protect wildlife in general. I'm sharing with you the people who are involved in that beautiful project Thank you, Jonathan Moore. Thank you, dear Ambassador Jamie DiMcCourt, for making that project possible. I would like to also to say thank you to Jessica Webster and Christopher Knight from the U.S. Embassy in Paris as well. Christopher is one of the members of judges, and I will have the opportunity to give you more details about it later. And finally, thank you so much to Jessica and Alice. Thank you for your trust. We have worked together since many weeks ago now, and it's a great honor to work with you. And thank you for the positive energy and the great dynamic that we put all together to make sure that this project happens actually. I would like to say finally thank you to Bérangère Abba, so the French Secretary of State for Biodiversity. Thank you for your trust and thank you for your words as well. And thank you to all the partners. I would like to say that organizing such an event is definitely a big challenge. And we are very happy to see that we were able to create such great dynamic because a lot of partners accepted to be part of it. So thank you to all the partners. Thank you to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Thank you to IUCN Netherlands. Thank you to the European Commission. Thank you to Interpol. Thank you to Microsoft, and thank you to all of you for being part of it. And thank you also to Barrack Bank, because you are a very special partner as well, and we will have the opportunity to give more details about it later. So thank you to all of you for being part of that amazing amazing project with us. First of all, I would like to share a few words about the Free Spirit Foundation. So actually, the Free Spirit Foundation is a foundation dedicated to protecting our planet in general, based in Paris. It is a non-profit organization with about 350 members, 22 project managers, roughly. And we decided to create 4 programs to protect our planet. One program dedicated to support the vulnerable children, another one dedicated to restore the forest, another one dedicated to protect the ocean, and finally, another one dedicated to protecting the spaces in general. So regarding the Zoohackathon, I would like to say thank you again to all the volunteers. We have about 40 volunteers within our organization that work a lot since a few weeks ago to make sure that it happens. So thank you to all of you. Let me introduce you all the project manager that you can see in front of you. And also, I would like to say thank you to the IAE Gustave Eiffel School Management School in Paris. Actually, we have a support team with about 29 people, and these people will support all the participants, the mentors, the judges, all the staff, to make sure that if you meet any technical issue, you will get some support from these people. Very quickly, I'm going to share with you more details about the IT for the Planet initiative. So it's about using information technology to protect our planet and to save our future. And it's about trying to work with all this talent from the universities, from all the young professionals, trying to find some technical solutions to make sure that we are able to protect wildlife, we are able to reduce our waste, and so on. Our mission is to identify, promote, trying to connect all the talent working as a young professionals or students with companies in the IT industry. It's about trying to mentor all the talent as well, providing some guidance and advice. And it's also trying to develop the great solutions, the solution ideas that some of you guys will be able to create during this Zoohackathon and also in the future. So our mission is trying to build a community with IT students, young professionals, startups, universities, governments, private companies in the IT industry, and investors. This is what we are trying to achieve. And it's possible because we got the support from the US Embassy, and thank you for being part of it. And our mission is to make sure that in the future, we are building a very strong community dedicated to protect our planet. Let's talk about the Zoohackathon. So the Zoohackathon in Europe, it's about 130 individuals, 29 teams in total from different countries. You will be able to see all the countries on the website itfortheplanet.org, actually. So it's going to be a 48 hours competition, right? So you're going to be able to start very soon, actually. You will be able to choose your problem statement. So there are in total 10 problem statements that you can choose. What about the judges? So we have a great judges panel. So thank you for the judges for being part of it. Christopher Snipes from the US Embassy, Olivier Robinet from the French Ministry of Ecology. Thank you, Antoinette, for joining, for being part of it. Antoinette from the IUCN Netherlands. Thank you, Aki, a specialist in IT. Thank you, Peter. You are living in the US just right now, and thank you for being part of it. And thank you to Meet from the European Commission to be part of it as well. This is a criteria. So as you can imagine, we are going to make a review of the best solutions, all the solutions actually, but you will get more details later. Mentors. We have a lot of mentors during this project, about 35 mentors. Mentors with different experience, expertise, mentors working in the IT industry, mentors working as wildlife experts, working for organizations dedicating to protect wildlife, or people, mentors with some expertise regarding wildlife trafficking in general. We also have some experts in communication and experts in ethics as well, because we think that is very important, because we all know that we need to reshape the future of our planet. So we think that it's very important as well. For the mentors, we have mentors from different organizations, different companies. Okay, so you can see some of them just right now in front of you, and you will see all of them on the website through the link that you can see. After the Zoohackathon, so a lot of things that we plan to do. It's gonna be a long-term project. We plan to keep raising awareness about wildlife trafficking. We plan to make some webinars in the future with the experts, with our friends, because we think that it's very important to amplify the voice of all these people with a lot of expertise and experience regarding that wildlife trafficking issue. And we need to keep educating people and our children about that issue. So you will see a lot of things in the future about that initiative. I'm very proud to announce that it's going to be a long-term project. And thank you to my team. Thank you to the US government. Thank you to the US Embassy in Paris. And thank you to all the partners and mentors for being part of it. Thank you so much. So now Valentine is going to be the next presenter.
So now we have a quick presentation. It's not my turn, actually, it's Antoinette's turn, Senior Expert Environmental Justice at IUCN Netherlands.
Good evening. I will share my screen. Oh.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, this is sorry, it's too early. Okay, I'll just have to, yeah, hold on. I'm not sure why it is at this screen.
No problem. Take your time, Antoinette.
The wonders of technology. It's always nice. Okay, this is the first sheet. I'm blonde, everyone, and sometimes I just have to prove that. So, thank you very much, and I really want to thank the US Embassy in France for hosting this event. And I would also like to thank the Free Spirit Foundation for their excellent organization. I'm Antoinette Sprenger, and I work at the IUCN National Committee of the Netherlands. And that's part of the International Union for Conservation of Nature. And not everybody knows this organization, I have noted.
Just to confirm, Antoinette, we don't see your screen.
Oh.
If you will try to share, but if you want, I can.
Yeah, then maybe you just share it, because we had this difficulty before the call already. That's weird, because I'm sharing. So maybe you then just do it? And I will just say next slide.
Do you see it now?
Yeah, we can see it now, Valentine. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So what is IUCN? IUCN is the world's largest and most diverse environmental network. It has been founded in 1948, and we actually have an observer seat at the UN. It's a membership union, and it's uniquely composed of more than 1,400 government and civil society organizations in 160 countries. We are the global authority and leading provider of the latest knowledge, resources, and tools about biodiversity, with more than 10,000 experts, and they're all volunteers. It's a neutral platform in which diverse stakeholders can work together to forge and implement solutions to environmental challenges. Next slide, please. So as I said before, I'm from the Netherlands and sweet old Amsterdam, and we work as an organization in the Netherlands and in Europe, and through our local partners in more than 30 countries in Africa, South America, and Asia. Next slide. Yeah. Our vision is a just world that values and conserves nature. Our mission is to influence, encourage, and assist societies throughout the world to conserve the integrity and diversity of nature and ensure that any use of natural resources is equitable and ecological sustainable. I was asked to tell you something about the current status of biodiversity. In my presentation, I will give you some insights of the importance of biodiversity, what the current status is, and what the main threats to biodiversity are. This is pretty complex, I can tell you. So I try to make it as simple as possible to prevent that we all get lost in translation. Next slide, please. So you have to click, remember, 3 times. Biodiversity provides us with climate resilience. Next click. The United States coastal wetlands offers 23 billion worth of storm protection. And Southeast Asia, hold on, I will tell you next slide. Throughout Southeast Asia, coastal protection is offered by mangroves. And currently a lot of projects are ongoing in this part of the world to replant mangroves where there have been previously destroyed. Next slide. It also provides us with water. Next click. Forest and mountain ecosystems provide water to 2/3 of the global population. Next slide. It also provides us with food. Click. Around 7,000 species of plants have been used for human food since farming. It's not only plants that provide us with food, it is also the pollinators. 3/4 of the world's food relies on pollinations by insects and animals. 577 billion worth of annual global food production relies directly on pollinators. This goes to show how dependent we are on biodiversity, not only for our food, but also our economy. Next slide. So one back. So what happened the past centuries? If you look at the extinction rate since the 1500s, you see that around 1800 and 1900, the extinction rate rises exponentially. And that has been the start of the Industrial Revolution. Amphibians, mammals, birds, reptiles, fishes, they're in deep difficulty since the start of the Industrial Revolution. Next slide. If you zoom into the last 40 years, you see that cycads and especially corals are having a very difficult time. We all know the pictures in the newspapers and the clips on television about the bleaching of the corals of the Great Barrier Reef. That's most likely caused by the rise of the temperatures of the seas related to the climate change. But all species, birds, mammals, amphibians, they're all suffering right now. Next slide. This is taken from the Living Planet Index from WWF, and it shows you two important indicators of the troubles that species are encountering right now. If you go to the upper graph, the green one, it shows you the abundance. It tracks the abundance of almost 21,000 populations of mammals, birds, fish, reptiles, and amphibians. The graph shows that there is an average proportional change in animal population of a decline of 68%. 68%, that is a lot. It's an average, so some species suffer more than others. If you then look at the purple graph, that's about the habitat index. All species, just as we, need a place to live and thrive. However, human land use and increasingly climate change are altering landscapes worldwide. This graph shows that for thousands of species with validated habitat associations worldwide, there is an average decline of 2%. This is a strong and general downward trend in habitat available to species. And it's an average, so habitat is disappearing quicker, for example, in South America and Southeast Asia, than, for example, in Europe, where we almost don't have any habitat anymore. So what is causing these declines? Just to give you some context, what has happened since the 1970s? The total gross domestic product has increased 4 times. The extraction of living materials from nature has tripled. And in total, the global human population has doubled, along with an enormous trend towards urbanization. This has come, however, to a great cost to nature and biodiversity. Next slide. So this is a lot of information right here. It shows you a good overview of the threats to nature and its drivers and pressures behind them. I will not go into all detail, I will just pick a few. If you look, for example, at the demographics, shown on the left as an indirect driver, but a very important one. At the moment, we are at 7.7 billion people, and it is expected that this will increase to about 9.7 in 2050. And it looks far away, but it's only in 30 years. All these people need to live somewhere and need to eat and drink and actually buy stuff. This will lead to more and more pressure on areas where there is still space. If you specifically zoom in to the food production and then to agriculture, it accounts to 70% of freshwater use, 70%. 52% of agricultural production land is degraded and is responsible for 80% of global deforestation, 80%. If you look, for example, at the deforestation that is happening in South America, in Paraguay and Brazil, a substantial part is related to the farming of soy, which is then exported to Europe and actually mostly to the Netherlands to feed their livestock. Deforestation is also related to the meat industry. We all know, for example, the delicious Argentinian steaks. But these steaks need to graze somewhere. So also our food systems are responsible for pressure on biodiversity, as they are responsible for land use changes and taking away habitats from species living there. Next slide, please. These are the main 5 drivers, threats to the biodiversity. The first one is the changes in land use and also sea use, what I just said. The second one is species overexploitations. Our fishery industry is unsustainable. They fish too much fish. The fish can't reproduce in time. Our hunting is unsustainable. Then invasive species and diseases coming along with invasive species. I remember I went and traveled to New Zealand, and their conservation was actually taking care of invasive species by the way of moving them to a separate place, because invasive species there, the rabbits, the cats, have led to the extinction of a lot of flightless birds. Then you have pollution, oil spills. We all know the oil spills that happened in the oceans. And then climate change. Just today it was reported that never since the measuring of the cover of ice at the North Pole, there was so little coverage. And it's probably related to the heat wave in Siberia. I mean, a heat wave in Siberia. What are we talking about? The threats differ, of course, per region, but you all see that the land use changes is the biggest and the most important driver of the threat to biodiversity. Next slide. Another driver is the illegal wildlife trade, and I will just briefly touch on it, as this is the Zoohackathon. So organized transnational crime is estimated to be between 70 and 230 billion per year, out of which 7 to 23 billion relates to the illegal wildlife trade. And this excludes timber, coal, and fishery products. And timber is a big industry. While the trade is a global one, the most problems are in Southeast Asia. Next slide. Illegal wildlife trade is driven by the high profits and in many cases the high prices paid for rare species. And it's a low risk to get caught. The priorities of law enforcement agencies until now, and fortunately it is changing, have not been catching traffickers. It was with drugs, human trafficking, and weapons. Illegal wildlife trade leads that vulnerable wild animals and plants are pushed further and further into extinction. Next slide. It takes different forms. Animal parts are ingredients for the traditional Chinese medicine. Pet trade, you see the cheetahs, and products, but also food. Next slide. If you have to take a closer look on the traditional Chinese medicine, rhino horn. Every day, 3 rhinos are killed for their horn. Pangolin scales. It's the most trafficked animal in the world. All subspecies are endangered now. Tiger, lion, and jaguar parts. Their bones are powdered and are used for potions. The totoaba is killed for its bladder, which leads to the extinction of the vaquita, who lives in the same habitat as the totoaba and gets caught in its net. There are only about 40 vaquita left, and the chances are very, very slim, and they will probably go extinct in the next couple of years. Manta ray are killed for their gills, and not to forget all the plants that also are endangered. Next slide. The pet trade. Some examples: tortoises, reptiles, birds, orangutans, chimpanzees, and cheetahs. The latter 3 are sold into the pet trade. Cheetahs, 5 out of the 6 cubs that are sold into the pet trade, they die during transport. And once they arrive at the new owners, they probably die shortly afterwards because the owner doesn't know how to take care of them. Next slide. Products, ivory carvers. Every 20 minutes, an elephant is killed for its ivory. During this speech and during this hour, 1 or 5 elephants are killed. Rosewood, it's a specific timber, is being chopped down a lot and is endangered now. It's being used for furniture. Jewelry, this picture I just took from an online trading. It's a tiger tooth. I'm doubting whether or not it's real because it was so easily to be found. But they use it as necklaces, as rings, or other ways of jewelry. Clothing, python skill is being used for boots or purses. Next slide. And then food. Shark fin soup is still being sold in China and in Asia. 100 million sharks are killed each year. In the last 50 years, we lost 90% of some shark populations. And it's a cruel business. They catch the sharks, cut off the fins, and throw the shark while it's still alive back in the ocean. And then, not to forget, bushmeat. It's leading to empty forests and, of course, the risk of zoonosis. And we all know where we got COVID from, but also Ebola, SARS, to mention a few. Next slide. So there was a little bit of a depressing presentation, but we can still bend the curve. Doing nothing is not an option. If we do nothing, we wind up in a gray line, and we don't want to wind up there. If we take conservation actions, we will follow hopefully the green line, but we need to do more. As I told in the beginning of my presentation, biodiversity is key for our survival, not only our, but also the species. So we need to step up to the plate and try to get into the yellow line, bend the curve before it's too late, because we need biodiversity to survive. Thank you very much. Not sure if there are any questions to take. I see I'm completely in the dark.
Yeah, so feel free to ask any question in the chat box of the YouTube channel.
I don't see any question for that part, Antoinette, so I see.
Okay.
It's great.
I will get the lighting right now.
So now,
Thank you, Antoinette.
it's about Peter Lindbergh, leader at the Conservation Ecology Center in Washington. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Let me share my screen. Can you see it? Sorry. All right. Oh, that's the wrong one.
So what we are seeing just right now is the Discord window,
Yeah.
just to let you know.
That's the wrong one, yes. Just a moment.
No worries.
We practiced this before.
It's so nice of you, Peter, to also mess up.
Yeah, it's easy to do. So I believe you see the correct, it should be the Zoohackathon slide.
It is.
I believe you all see that. So thank you to Free Spirit Foundation, Fabrice and his fabulous team for inviting me, as well as thank you to the US Embassy and the State Department. I am very, very excited to be here. It's a great honor because the reason I'm excited is it's incredible to me that so many people would join to try and use their skill to advance conservation. I think that's an incredible thing, and I want to thank you ahead of time for this. My name is Peter Leimgruber. I'm a research scientist and conservation biologist at the Smithsonian Institution. For those of you that may not have heard of the Smithsonian, it's the largest museum and research complex. It's based in the US. We have 11 museums and 9 research centers. And a large part of our research is focused on natural history, biodiversity, and conservation. I lead the Smithsonian's Center for Conservation Ecology, which really has a mission of using basic and applied science and advanced technology to conserve species, their habitats, and ecosystems globally. So as is clear from the mission, we are very technology oriented. We use a lot of different kinds of technology to look study, to assess, and to conserve species and their ecosystems. So there's a few examples. We work with over 100 partners in 38 countries across the globe, studying about 40 species, probably about 50 landscapes. And we are tracking these species, often with satellite GPS, or we use camera traps or satellite mapping or other advanced technology to assess them. And so I want to talk to you a little bit today about conservation technology and how it's currently being used for combating wildlife trade. Thank you to Antoinette for really preparing the place. I have a similar slide. You've seen this data already. This is the EBES report. So as Antoinette said, it can't be business as usual. We are losing species at higher rates than ever before. And transformative change is needed to really advance this agenda. And that really means we need you. We need young people. We need motivated people, professionals to come together and address this. And specifically, as we're talking about right now, the wildlife trade, which is estimated to be $7 to $23 billion a year by the UN. I would suspect that the number is actually much greater. The UN has done a lot of work on this, and there's a lot of that we already understand in terms of how the trade works. And usually we're really talking about a supply chain that goes from the source through transit to a destination. And there are different players and there are different spaces in here where we can use technology or strategies to try and prevent or interact or intervene with this trade. I would like to add to this that we really actually also, in addition, need to have interventions at the wildlife scale. We need to monitor how wildlife is affected by the trade and by poaching, and we need to interact with the communities at either ends of this supply chain. Communities these are the places where members are part of this trade and members are being affected by the diseases or by the crime that are associated with the trade. And then last but not least, there's the internet that connects everything nowadays. So a lot of this trade is actually not even physical anymore. There's a lot of internet virtual stuff that's happening and that we need to address and figure out how to deal with. So over the last 3 days, I had very little time to prepare. I was preparing a big talk on telling you everything about conservation technology and how it could be used and where the challenges are. So from kind of how to use camera trapping or remote detection, new advanced technologies. And I showed it to my wife and she was completely overwhelmed. And I think it's right. Rather than giving you an overview of all these techniques that I'm listing here now, I actually stepped back and thought, well, what do I find in my daily work where I see challenges that could be addressed by AI, by innovation in IT? And I came up with 4 topics, and I'm going to give you some example for these topics. The first one really has to do with improving detection. Improving detection is developing new tools and software and algorithms and object recognition to identify animals, for example, but also to perhaps detect wildlife trade. The second piece is really making more of our data. We all work for organizations that collect huge amounts of data. And one of the challenges is that we're not actually really taking full advantage of the data that's being collected. It's not shared enough. It's not aggregated in the right places, so it's easily accessible and can be analyzed. There's not enough automation. So often we are not processing it because we don't have enough staff. And there is just in general not enough dissemination. And then I would expand beyond this and talk about improving algorithms. So whenever we talk about data, it's the question of how do you actually process the data and how do you extract the information. When we talk to the tech industry, they always want to talk about big data, and big data is great. But the truth is we actually have imperfect and sparse data. We get few detections of wildlife. We get few detections of animals. So the algorithms we need to use could be fundamentally different from many of the algorithms that are being used in the tech industry, and they need specific attention. That's not to say that there isn't big data in conservation. There is, and we need to address that too. And then finally, last but not least, is really how do we better engage people with the information that we're collecting. And engaging people in conservation means a lot of different things. People could be source, they could be informants, they could be partners on the ground that give us critical information. They could be citizen scientists, Often they're decision makers that we're trying to influence with our data. And of course, it's the public who, in the end, has to decide how much they value biodiversity and how much they want to preserve it into the future. So let me start with, I'm just going to give a few examples for each one of this because there's not enough time. So I'm going to some of the things that we work on actively, but it could be expanded tremendously. So improving detection. You know, for most species, we have very little knowledge about their actual status in the wild. In fact, it's very difficult for us to even monitor and count them. And that makes sense, especially so for species that are heavily affected by the wildlife trade. They're rare, they're endangered, they avoid humans, they're not easily found, and so they're difficult to count. So what technologies do we have that can help with that? So camera trapping is one, but perhaps satellite imagery can help. So we are working on a project, and it's supported by Microsoft AI for Earth, where we're taking high-resolution satellite imagery and we're trying to identify individual animals automatically. And we're actually not starting with wildlife, we're just starting with livestock because there's more and it's easier to do, and then later we can transfer. But also because livestock has huge negative impacts on wildlife in many places. So this requires object recognition, it requires deep learning, neural network algorithms, to do it repetitively and fast. We don't have them yet, but we're working on developing that, and that requires coding skills. From that, we could go on that we don't own, it's not just that we want to identify animals from static images, we also want to be able to track them from imagery, satellite imagery or drone imagery. This is a herd of wildebeest as they're crossing the Masai Mara. And we're working with the University of Edinburgh and University of Glasgow, and there are people there that are coding for us how to identify every individual animal and then follow it through the map to see where it goes and what happens to it. So this is really advanced stuff already that eventually will help us to actually count how many of these animals migrate and how many make it across. So that was just a brief one on ideas on where detection could be improved. A lot of detection has to do with collecting remote data, object recognition, neural networks. Making better use of data. So I want to talk about camera trapping. Camera trapping is probably one of the most used techniques for trying to monitor wildlife. There's lots of this data out there. It's really huge volumes, but it's difficult to actually compile it and make it useful. Often it sits in an office with a researcher or an NGO and it doesn't get shared. There is a relatively new initiative called Wildlife Insights with lots of partners that is trying to address this now. So this is a platform for sharing your camera trapping data. It will eventually be able to use machine learning neural networks to identify the individual species on these photos. And there will be other analytics that can calculate detections. And ultimately, this is supposed to be a system that can be used for decision support and to monitor the status of biodiversity. So this is very close. I give you one other example for data compilation or making better use of data. This is an initiative that came out of one of these events that we're looking for new innovations to address wildlife trade. It's called the Nature Intelligence System. And this solution actually uses shipping records. It kind of uses pattern recognition and shipping records to address, to separate illegal from legal wildlife trade during transit in airports. So, you know, you might not know this, but there's a huge amount of wildlife that's traded legally, and there's a lot of attempts to hide illegal trade within that. And it's very difficult for airport authorities and customs authorities to monitor that. They can usually not check more than 10% of the shippings that go through. And by looking at shipping information and looking for anomalies and connections, this system can help give the authorities a heads up on what's coming and to provide more monitoring in those situations. And the final one, that's a much more operational one, an applicable one. This is Earth Ranger, developed by Vulcan. This is a tool to compile information streams from ranger radios to satellite imagery to GPS colors on animals to provide actionable information during management. So you could actually use this, and it is being used, to try and see where poachers are encroaching and to send out teams to intervene with that. So now we're coming to improving algorithms, and I'm just going to give you a simple example there. So this has to do with a very basic kind of thing in monitoring. It has to do with detection. When I detect an animal in the field, two things have to happen. The animal has to be there, and I have to actually be able to perceive it, to detect it. So that's easy. The difficult part comes with non-detection. If I don't find an animal out there, I actually don't know what happened. Is the animal not there, which would be a true absence? Or did I not detect it because it ran away, or I couldn't see it, it was hidden? And that's a real problem. And there's a whole slew of models out there. They usually fall under occupancy analysis and models that are especially, these are statistical models, especially designed to account for imperfect detection. And they give you a probability. What this means is you can actually estimate the actual number of animals, even the ones that you didn't see. And these things can also be applied to assessments of poaching or hunting in other scenarios. Just to visualize this a little bit, I give you an example here. This is data from an aerial survey for wildlife that's conducted annually sorry, I have to go back. It's conducted annually in Kenya, and you can see there's this flight line, an airplane flies across, and you count the animals. The problem is that some animals are hidden. You don't see them. So when you come back with an estimate, your number is lower than the actual number that's out there. And there are ways to assess this by using repeated sampling. You can actually assess which animals you're missing and how many you're missing. So I'm giving you two examples. You know, it's easier to count animals that occur in large groups than if they're individual. And on the right, it's a little hard to see. You know, larger animals are more easily counted if there's vegetation than smaller animals. And you can combine that in different tools. This is a result on the left. You can see observed species richness in this area in Kenya, and you see those numbers are much smaller. And on the right, you see the modeled, and that's much closer to the reality, and they're much larger. This could also be done for abundances. So here is an example where we use this with interview surveys that we conducted in Myanmar with hunters. And we used this kind of sampling design to estimate where do they see pangolins and where do they poach pangolins. And then we can make these predictive maps where pangolin poaching is the highest in that country. And so that's information that's actionable. You can actually use this to design interventions such as anti-poaching patrolling. And you know, you can do this. We did this also actually for all of the wildlife, and you can correlate it with other covariates where you can then see what factors are influencing the intensity of poaching in these places. So I come to the last topic, which is engaging with people. I'm coming back to this survey. So this is really people as a source of information. You can design social science surveys that will try to get unbiased information from these hunters. They don't usually like to tell you what they're doing. So how do you ask your questions to get that information so it's unbiased? We did this with, we worked with local NGOs, Myanmar NGOs, and we trained them to use a phone app that we designed, and the data was directly loaded into our servers to then kind of assess where these hunting risks are. And you can see the map on the right. These are kind of assessments where you could look at where do the hunters hunt and where does this wildlife actually go to the market survey. Another example for engaging with people comes from our tracking work. This actually also uses Earth Ranger, which I mentioned before by Vulcan. This is the trigger tracker. It's not publicly accessible yet. This is the largest tracking of giraffe across Africa. We're working with the Giraffe Conservation Fund. We're currently tracking over 200 giraffes across Africa with these GPS collars, and we're trying to use that information to I'll give you another picture here. On the left, you can see the giraffe. You can see at the very top, there's something attached to the ossicone, the horn. That's a solar-powered GPS transmitter that can send the information. And to the right, you see a map of the movements of giraffe. And so we can use this data to visualize the movements. We can talk to decision makers about infrastructure development and how it would affect the movements. We can use it to try and detect if poaching is going on. And also we can use it to tell the story. You can tell the story of individual giraffes, which makes it very personal and which really helps motivating people to care about these things. So this was a really quick run through of some very basic 4 components that I think are critical and that perhaps you should consider in the work that you're doing. These are pictures of previous hackathons that I stole from the web. again, I am absolutely awed by you participating in this. I think we are in dire need of your skills. Conservation organizations do not have these skills enough. We cannot compete with the tech industry when we try to offer salaries to people of your profession. But I can tell you, I have no positions to offer at the Smithsonian, but I can tell you, if you're in graduate school and you're looking for projects and you want to do some AI, IT on conservation, contact me. There's my email. I'd be happy to talk to you, and perhaps there's something that we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for such a proposition. Thank you so much. It is exactly what we are trying to achieve with that project. So thank you for that proposition, Peter.
Peter?
And thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for the high quality of your presentation too.
Thanks.
We received a couple of questions for you, and maybe as well Antoinette can give a piece of details after. So the first question is about the statistics that we received. What kind of applications or programs can we do to improve biodiversity?
Well, there's a lot of work that already exists. There is a programming language called R that has a lot of packages that people use, and there's a lot of literature on how to do detection. So if you're interested in this, I would just Google occupancy analysis for wildlife detection, and I would check out R if you're familiar with it. It's a statistical programming language. It's widely used, very, very useful.
Thank you. And the next one, what are the practices in IT that are implemented to prevent animal trafficking?
Is that directed to me? Yeah, I'm not really a technician, as you've all noted. So I must admit, I rather refer that to Peter. I'm really impressed what they're all doing. So I guess you will have a better answer than I have. Sorry for that.
Peter, I can ask you again if you want.
Yeah, can you say, what was the question again?
Sure. What are the practices in IT that are implemented to prevent animal trafficking?
Oh, that's a very big question, and there's a lot to do. So I do think that this ranges from scraping information from the internet and social media and using network analysis or pattern recognition to try and identify where wildlife is traded. We could spend the whole afternoon talking about this. Perhaps we can take this offline. I'm happy. I offered my email. I'm happy to send some additional examples to whoever is interested.
Thank you, Peter. I'm pretty sure the participants are trying to have some tips from the judges to have ideas for their
all right, I should probably
solutions.
Be careful here.
Yeah. Then we have another one. Are those data reachable on the open data model?
I'm not sure. I mean, I got my data from the IPBES report and the Living Planet Index. But I'm not sure if the data that they used for that report are actually open data. I don't know that. But I mean, there are so much information on the internet. So there's, as Peter said, there's just so much out there. You just have to find it. Yeah.
Thank you. At least we have this kind of events to have those data from you. Thank you very much. All right, then that was all with the questions. Actually, we received another one. How will someone with a tech background best go about getting into wildlife conservation? Besides participating to an hackathon, I mean. How would someone with a tech background best go about getting into wildlife conservation?
So I think, I showed a couple of examples of projects that are out there. I would contact those projects. I would contact people. I think this is, and it's good to start early. If you're still studying, then I'm sure there's lots of organizations where you could perhaps do an internship or something to see what happens, see whether you like it or not, and go from there.
All right.
Don't be shy. write to people, even if they have big names or whatever.
Another one for Peter. How was working from home during the pandemic influenced detection of poaching and citizen science? Are there new opportunities?
Yeah, you know, the pandemic is awful. You know, we there's not much happening in the field except in emergency situations. It's probably going to be really bad. We're not in a place yet that we can assess what this means. There is perhaps one silver lining in that it highlights the issue of wet markets, and that really some countries need to clean up their act and stop that trade.
Okay, thank you. And the last one, and then we're going to carry on with the next presentation. How would public awareness help stop wildlife trafficking? This is a very good question.
I think that's very obvious. There's plenty of reports out there that show that Europe and the US are major markets for wildlife. And people are always surprised when you tell them that. So that's right there, tells you we have still a lot of work to do to show people what products not to buy and how not to do these things. I think that Europe can play a huge, huge role in making a change.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, for example, the pet trade. I mean, there's a huge pet trade in reptiles and birds into Europe. And sometimes they say it's legal. And sometimes you import animals from countries and it's like supposed to be legal. But it's also a lot of green whitewashing being done, because they say animals are captive bred, but it's not possible if you look at the reproduction numbers. So there are a lot of animals being caught in the wild and then shipped off as being captive bred. So when you buy special reptiles, the chances are very high it's just illegal, but it's very difficult to detect. So I think that's something that we really need to raise awareness. I'm not talking only about reptiles, but the same goes for birds. I mean, we have this event in Amsterdam. It's the Kwaku Kwaku event of Suriname people, and it's about songbirds. And each year before this event, there's a huge trade in songbirds coming from Suriname to Amsterdam, and it's all illegal. So it's a big, big problem, and we should really do something about it.
Right, thank you very much. We will carry on with the next presentation. So it's a presentation from the United States Office on Drugs and Crime with Jorge Rios and Jenna Dawson-Faber. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Hi, my name is Jenna Dawson-Faber, and I work for the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. I'm based in Vienna, and I would like to share my screen with you. So hopefully I get this right. See if I can make it work.
Perfect. Yeah.
We got it?
Yeah, just got it in full screen and we are good to go. Perfect.
Ah, fantastic. Okay. So you've got it in full screen, yeah?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. What have I done wrong?
Yeah. So yeah, we can see it, but it's a small screen now.
Okay.
We can see your.
What if we do this? How's that?
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, it's better now.
There we go. Fantastic.
Thank you.
So we're just as a first thank you very much to the U.S. Embassy and the Free Spirit Foundation for inviting us to be part of this. We're really excited to be able to join you, and I'm very happy to follow the presentations actually of Antoinette and Peter, because I think it will save me quite a bit of talking. Because what I wanted to talk with you a little bit about this afternoon was to sort of walk you through a little bit of the reasons about why we care so much about wildlife crime and wildlife trafficking. And Antoinette did a brilliant job sort of explaining the issues around biodiversity loss. And I think what's really important is to attach some numbers to this as well. That same IPBES report is talking about the loss of up to 1 million species that we're talking about going extinct. These are not small numbers. This is extinction on an enormous scale. And wildlife crime is one of the drivers of some of this biodiversity loss. It tends to target apex species or very important species in ecosystems, and this has a knockdown effect throughout the ecosystems, and it's enormously challenging. And it's also a contributing factor in terms of amplifying climate change. And just as Peter also noted, the connection between zoonotic diseases and wildlife trafficking is something that the world has woken up to in 2020. Almost 75% of all emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic in origin. And while there's still no scientific clarity about the actual source of the COVID pandemic, we do know that bringing wild species into our homes as pets, into our shops, into our markets, into our restaurants, is really a way to bring nature closer to us. And that brings not only benefits, but also threats.
Okay.
And I think something else that the global community is becoming aware of is the role that wildlife and natural resources play in terms of people's livelihoods. With the pandemic ongoing at the moment, a lot of communities that live in close proximity or who live very closely in and around wildlife populations have seen some detrimental impacts of the pandemic. For example, on wildlife tourism. Right? Many countries in Africa have up to 15 to 30% of their tourism GDP is generated by wildlife tourism. And these communities that are dependent on these resources have seen a dramatic drop in this opportunity for them. And it's caused, in some cases, an increase in poaching for things like bushmeat for sustainable protein. And in other cases, we've seen a decrease in poaching. So it's too early to really say what the overall impact is going to be. But ultimately, we really do recognize that we need to come up with a longer term achievable plan when we talk about sustainable livelihoods and the use of wildlife products. And because I work at the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, the issue of illegal trafficking and wildlife crime in particular is something that, again, Antoinette picked up on in her discussion about the fact that this is big business. Right? The funds from natural resource exploitation that should be supporting development opportunities should be being used as resources by the people for their own development, are instead lining the pockets of organized criminal groups. And through corruption, is sowing the seeds of instability and in conflict, and is really depriving citizens of the rule of law in their very own countries. So we look at wildlife crime not only as an issue that affects biodiversity and health and livelihoods, but also is really a security issue. So from the UNODC perspective, we talk about meeting the Sustainable Development Goals. We talk about goals 13 on climate action, 14 on life underwater, 15 on life on land, as well as goal 16, which is on peace and justice and access to justice and strong and stable institutions. So I think that one of the topics that's good to keep in mind is why we're looking at this issue and why it's so important. So what do we talk about when we talk about wildlife crime? There's no generally agreed upon definition, but this is the one that we tend to use when we're talking about everything from the illegal taking, trading, which includes the trafficking, importing, exporting, processing, possessing, obtaining, and consumption of wild flora and fauna in contravention of national or international law. And this is the important part, is it depends on what any given country has determined to be legal or illegal in its own national law. And when we talk about wildlife, we talk about not only wild flora and fauna, but also marine resources. So you see a little rhino. The next picture here is the glass eels. But what I wanted to tell you a little bit about, again, Antoinette touched on this already, is some of the causes and drivers of wildlife crime. So absolutely, as she mentioned before, demand is a central reason for why people are actually interested in having some of these products. And some of it may be for art, right? Looking at the use of ivory tusks and rhino horns in some cases. Pets, just like Antoinette mentioned in terms of fashion, even things like cosmetics, right? The use of oud and sturgeon caviar in certain face creams. Things like food, right? The use of glass eels that are then grown to full grown and consumed as a delicacy. The construction industry uses a huge amount of timber, and specialty furniture is also in high demand. The rosewood that Antoinette mentioned is big business and is really destroying a lot of forests across Africa, as well as Southeast Asia. And then, of course, the curios and things like cacti that are heavily sought after by collectors. Another element, as I mentioned before, was the supply side, right? A lot of things, there are economic incentives to be able to engage in various different aspects of wildlife crime. And from the criminal justice perspective, this is still very much a low risk, high reward type of crime. It's still very unlikely that you will be caught and arrested. And even if you are arrested, the likelihood of you actually being tried and sentenced is still quite low, while there's still quite a lot of profits to be made from this particular industry. So something I also wanted to mention, just so that you're aware of, that in terms of some patterns and trends in this field, over the last probably 5 or 6 years, there's been growing attention, including from the academic community, to do more work on looking specifically at wildlife crime. There have been a handful of major summits over the years that draw attention and have brought a lot of political commitment to addressing these areas. We've also seen a growing number of convictions. Some of you may recognize the lady on the right as Yang Fenglen. She's sometimes called the Ivory Queen, and she was arrested for her role in trafficking in ivory in Tanzania. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison, and this is one of the first major sentences that we've seen. But there is a growing number of convictions, largely happening in Eastern Africa. We're also starting to see some changes in the patterns for demand and supply. I thought I would show you this particular graph, which is from the World Wildlife Crime Report that we launched in July of this year. This is actually about the number of pangolins, right, that have been seized annually. And you can see the data goes from 2007 up to 2017. And we've seen not only an increase in the number of seizures, but the number of pangolin, whole pangolin equivalents within each of those seizures. And this is quite a dramatic change over the last several years. And we were wondering, what could possibly be causing this? And we were wondering if there was also something resembling a displacement effect at play here. For example, when we talk about displacement, we talk about species displacement. If you can't get something that you're looking for, such as a tiger tooth, well, would you settle for a jaguar tooth, right? What kind of displacement can we have in terms of species? But what about geographic displacement? If it starts to become harder to either find an animal that you're looking for, or a particular type of tree, and it's a lot riskier because you're more likely to be caught by law enforcement, well, maybe you're going to shift your looking and your hunting to a different part of the world, or a different country that neighbors the one where you were originally planning to act. And so with this displacement effect, sometimes what we've been wondering is whether or not ivory poachers have shifted into looking perhaps towards pangolin scales, which is becoming a hotter market. And this is something we've started to see, is this is actually a major seizure that happened last year, where these are pangolin scales in these bags. And they were actually seized along with ivory tusks. So this is something new and is potentially an indicator of convergence between some of these particular crimes, whether or not they're going to the same market and the same buyers, but certainly the traffickers are shipping them together. As Peter mentioned too, the wildlife crime has started to move to the internet, and online communication platforms are serving as the foundations to help suppliers and buyers connect, a lot of the time through WeChat or WhatsApp groups. That as soon as one is identified and shut down by law enforcement, another one pops up. So this is something that is we really need to take a look at, and it's something that we looked at in the World Wildlife Crime Report specifically for the reptile market as being a hot way for them to connect with each other. A lot of people ask us about how much of this is on the darknet as opposed to the open internet, and the answer is a lot of the times countries don't consider this crime serious enough, so there's still pretty low risk to being on the open internet. You don't have to go dark to be able to be involved in this market. And also, as Peter and Antoinette both mentioned, COVID-19 has had several disruptive effects, not only to wildlife traffickers who may have found their usual flights and maritime routes shut down, but also to the communities who are dependent on wildlife resources and/or tourism. So as UNODC, some of the work that we do is largely to support UN member states in addressing, or preventing and addressing wildlife crime. And I thought you might be interested in some of the main challenges that we have identified while we've been doing some of the work. So as I mentioned, a lot of countries don't yet take this crime seriously. They don't recognize it as serious and/or transnational organized crime, and therefore it's not really prioritized in terms of law enforcement and resources dedicated to it. Something that Peter mentioned as well is the vulnerability of the supply chains and what Antoinette mentioned as she answered the last question. There's a lot of laundering that happens through legal supply chains, especially for lookalike species or species that are hard to identify. There's a lot of gaps and risks within individual supply chains for everything from corruption to money laundering, fraud, document forgery. So illicit supply chains are also quite vulnerable. We do see a lot of challenges in around corruption, both grand corruption at higher levels as well as low-level corruption. It can be as simple as a bribe, or it can go so far as full-blown fraud. We also start to see things like under-equipped staff and weak law enforcement capacity. Some of this largely has to do with the lack of prioritization or lack of resources. Some of the questions that we get and some of the requests we get are often not for necessarily super high-tech solutions, but for foundational things like petrol for their cars or boots and raincoats. In many cases, there are still inadequate laws. Many countries are still relying on their conservation or hunting legislation that are just simply not up to the task of dealing with organized crime and corruption as we treat them today. And because so many of these crimes are transnational, there's a distinct lack of coordination and international cooperation to be able to go after the supply, demand, and transit for a lot of these crimes. So that's something that we've been spending a lot of time working to get countries to cooperate more together. So just very quickly, what UNODC is working on is we call our approach from crime scene to court. And we work with countries throughout the criminal justice chain to work to prevent these crimes, because once that animal has been killed or that tree has been cut down, it's not so easy to just replace it. We work with criminal justice systems to detect a lot of these crimes and hopefully find seizures when we interdict, and then to go beyond those seizures to investigate and prosecute these crimes, and with the intent of having deterrent sentences that will then feed back into a preventive response. So some things that are available to you over this weekend is a series of publications that we have that you can all find on our website, unodc.org/wildlife. So we've got our annual report that has some data in it, some of the methodology we use for addressing corruption, a guide that we developed on how to improve a country's legislation, access to the World Wildlife Crime Report, which has all of the data and trend pattern from the last 4 years, in case you're interested in that. And then probably our flagship publication where we guide countries through addressing the gaps within their systems legislatively in terms of enforcement and the judiciary, as well as the lack of data that they may have. And we have a couple of guides that we've developed to help countries improve their forensics in this area. So just in closing, I thought I would leave you with a small bit of advice for the weekend. And I was thinking in terms of what you'd be looking to do is really to be practical, right? Think about who you are trying to solve this problem for and how you're trying to help them. And I would also really encourage you to think about unintended consequences of your design, because everything that can be used by the good side can also be used by the bad side. So I would just ask you to think like a criminal and see how you can also undermine your solutions before you present it. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very good luck for the weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the quality of your presentation. Valentine, who's next? You're on mute, Valentine. It seems that you. Oh, okay. We can hear you now.
Yeah, icon doesn't appear on my computer anymore. Anyway, we have as well Rory Rios with us. I don't know if you have some.
Yeah, actually, yeah, he's a colleague of Jenna, actually, so they're working together.
Okay, so that was all.
Yeah.
We're gonna thank you so much for all your presentation to all of you. It was very interesting, and I hope it gave you more details and more tips and information that you can add in your solutions. Okay, let's play a game all together. We're gonna try to do a quiz. I hope you have listened all the information that was given by all our very interesting speakers. There was some solutions, some answers of that quiz that was in the previous presentation. So I hope you were very, very attentive. So let's give a try. As you may know, we are on live. We have a bit of delay about this quiz, but we're going to try to do it anyway. I hope you're going to enjoy it. So now you're going to have a link to join that quiz to all of you. This link can be on Discord, on announcement channel. This link can be on live chat on YouTube. So please connect and let's go on the quiz. And I will ask Philippe, our great operator, to show the quiz as well for me. Okay, can you see it, the question?
Yeah, we can see it now. There is a first question appearing just right now on the screen. Yeah.
All right, so let's start. I can't see it, but that's fine. I have all written here. So, first question. In the United States, thousands of individuals are arrested for poaching every year. Which parts of the overall poachers' populations in the US does it represent? 5%, 10%, 15%, or 20%? Do you mind, Philippe, to unshare and share it again, because I can't see it and it's pretty annoying for me.
So now we can see appearing, you know, the different answers possible: 5%, 10%, 15%, and 20%. So some people are saying that they don't see the link, just to let you know, of the quiz.
The link is above in the, it's in Discord, actually. Maybe can someone put it in the chat as well?
Yeah, thank you, Valentine. Yeah, so the link is in Discord, so you can see the links in Discord. So all the participants have got an account on Discord already.
Let me put it right now in the live, if you need.
So we've got few questions, few answers already, just to let you know. Oh, thank you. So Jonathan has just shared the link on YouTube, the chat box as well, for the one who have not seen it. Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay. So about the answers, well, you can't see it. This is you all can see the presentation, right?
Yeah, I confirm, Valentine, we can see it, and I can see, you know, some of the answers as well. I can see that, you know, 44% so far of the answers are 5%. So this is what I can see on the screen just right now.
Okay, so I think I've got a bug for this call. So let me just take a few seconds and I will pop up.
Okay, feel free. So once you fix, you know, your issue, so I hope that you really appreciated the quality of the presentation from the different speakers. It was very interesting, you know, to get all this information about, you know, the fields. Okay, so it was very interesting to see all these different information presentation. I hope that most of them will inspire you during the competition, and you will see anyway some of the problem statement as well that will be published. And I hope that some of the presentation will definitely inspire you to make the right choice regarding the problem statement.
All right, so the right answer was 5%. Sorry about that. So indeed, it's very hard to gather all the information regarding poaching, which makes the works of rangers even harder to arrest poachers. In the world, only 5 countries collect and keep data on poaching. Obviously, it's not about all countries who has problem with poaching, but we know that their activists strongly participate to the around 30,000 species in the world which are driven to extinction every year. So next question. How much money does illegal wildlife trafficking generate throughout the world? Second question, how much money does illegal wildlife trafficking generate throughout the world? Is it 20 million US dollars? Is it 200 million US dollars, 2 billion US dollars, or 20 billion US dollars?
So how much money does illegal wildlife trafficking generate through the world each year? 20 millions, 200 millions, 2 billions, 20 billions. So what do you think?
So the right answer actually was 20 billion. Indeed, it's a very lucrative market as the price of animals goods rise all the time. And sadly, animal trafficking is ranked as the 4th position of the global criminal activities, the most lucrative in the world. Next question.
Thank you. Just a comment on that, Valentine, if you don't mind. Maybe for the next question, we can leave maybe 1 or 2 minutes, to make sure that people can get the answer. So yeah, we got about 70 answers, which is very good. Thank you for that. Yeah, next question, Valentine. Thank you.
So the next question is, how many rhinoceros are killed by poachers on average each day? That was said by Antoinette earlier. 1, 2, 3, or 4 rhinoceros killed every day.
So how many rhinos are killed by poachers in average each day? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there a fifth answer, Valentine? Yeah?
No, it's only 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, or 4. What do you think?
How many rhinoceros are killed by poachers in average each day? I think you can leave the answer. We can leave people answer a bit before getting to the next one. Yeah, so the answer were 3. Indeed, the rhinoceros is a species very popular for poaching. It threatens seriously to destroy this iconic animal in the world. 97.6% of the black rhinoceros population has vanished since 1960. Okay, next one. According IUCN, which parts of the European animal species are threatened with extinction? 3%, 8%, 11%, or 14%? According to the IUCN, which parts of the European animal species are threatened with extinction? 3%, 8%, 11%, or 14%? This makes a very blank silence everywhere about this quiz. I know this is a bit tricky because we have a bit of delay, but I hope you're going to enjoy either on the platform Bcast that are kindly allow us to have a license for this event, or either on YouTube with us in live. Trying to do both, it's actually harder. So here the answer is 11%. Globally, it is 1 million out of 8 million species that are threatened with extinction, 1 million out of 8 million species. In Europe, the most endangered are snails, clams, and fish. 36 species have become extinct in Europe as of 2015. 5 questions. How many brown bears now live in Europe? 9,000, 14,000, 25,000, or 42,000? How many brown bears now live in Europe? How many brown bears now live in Europe? 9,000, 14,000, 15,000, or 42,000? Is it 14,000? It's 14,000. Those 14,000 brown bears live in Europe in 10 separate populations. Their habitats span from the west of Spain to the east of Russia and from the north of Scandinavia to southern Romania and Bulgaria. In France, the bears are critically endangered. Okay, next question. Regarding its components, which part of the human body will be the closest of the rhinoceros horn? Is it the nail, the bone, the skin, or hair? Regarding its components, which part of the human body will be the closest of the rhinoceros horn? Nail, bone, skin, or hair? So the answer was hair. Indeed, the rhinoceros horn are made up of the protein keratin, the main component of human hair. Well, it's not exactly hair, but they are similar because it's all made by keratin. Lots of people think that a rhino horn has therapeutic and aphrodisiac effects, but it's totally false. The horn is more expensive than gold. You can expect to find rhino's horn cost between 40 and 50,000 euros per kilo on black markets. I see that hair wasn't the answer that you responded the most. Next question. Which fingerprint is similar from the human one? Which fingerprint, the finger, I mean, not the foot, finger, is similar from the human one? Is it the koala? Is it the raccoon? The red panda? Or the orangutan? Which fingerprint is similar from the human one? Koala, raccoon, red panda, or orangutan? So the answers were koala, actually, parce que even crime scene investigators cannot distinguish the difference between koala and human prints because there are so much. Why? Scientists believe they may have something to do with the shared, they together do grasping. Like human, koalas must be good at grasping in order to eat, and to do so, it helps to have fingerprints. Okay, next question. Which parts of their bodies foxes use to communicate between each other? Which part of their bodies foxes use to communicate between each other? Ear, muzzle, tail, or eyes? Is it ear, muzzle, tail, or eyes? Okay, the answer was the tail. Like a cat, fox's tail aids its balance, but not only. A fox uses its tail as a signal flag to communicate to each other, and their tail is as well a warm cover in cold weather. Congratulations, half of you have answered tail, which is awesome. I wasn't expecting so much on that one. Okay, next one. Four questions left. What is the price of the ivory wholesale in China? What is the price of the ivory wholesale in China? Is it $5 US? Is it 1,300 US? 2,100 US? Or 2,800 US? What is the price of the ivory wholesale in China? $5 US, 1,300 US, 2,100 US, or 2,800 US. Okay, the answer was $2,100. I know maybe you have been surprised by the $5, but you have to know that over the past 25 years, the wholesale price of ivory in China has risen from $5 to $2,100. So 25 years ago, it only costed $5 US. The African elephant population is quickly dwindling, making the price of ivory rise. China is the world's largest market for ivory, and the US come right after in a close second. Tenth questions. How many African elephants are killed by poachers every year in the world? How many African elephants are killed by poachers every year in the world? As well, you should have some tips from the previous presentations that we had. Is it 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, or 40,000? The answer is 30,000. 30,000 elephants are killed every year in the world. The African elephant population has been cut in half since the 17th due to ivory poaching. It is estimated that the African elephants will be extinct in the most 10 years if we don't stop now. Well, if the poaching does not stop, I mean. 11th questions. For this one, I will invite you to click on the image on the top left to make it bigger. Here are the two close-up images of one of bone and one of elephant ivory. Which picture is the ivory one? Is it the left one or the right one? So click on the picture above and make a close-up of this image. Which one is the ivory one? The other one is a bone. Is it the left one or the right one? And make sure that you can unclick the zoom to answer the question, to see the answer. Is it the left one or the right one? So it was the right one. The ivory has been traded for 100 years. It was formerly used to make piano keys and other decorative items because of the white color it presents when processed. So it's not white before being treated. So maybe that's why we had more answer on the left picture. Next question, the 12th one. What is the percentage of amateurs, hobby, collectors involved in the online trade in reptiles and birds in Belgium and Netherlands? What is the percentage of amateurs, hobby, collectors involved in the online trade in reptiles and birds in Belgium and in Netherlands? 5%, 25%, 60% or 90%? What is the percentage of amateurs, hobby, collectors involved in the online trade in reptiles and birds in Belgium and the Netherlands? 5%, 25%, 60% or 90%? The answer is 60%. This trade is spread on internet through several ways, but 25% of all listings were found on Facebook. So you can see it can be very random websites that you can buy reptiles and birds. Last question. What is the percentage of EU online platform providing clear information on relevant legislation and or policies regarding trade in wildlife? The answer was less than 25%. And this is the end, actually, of this quiz. Congratulations for the one who was answered right. I hope it wasn't too messy with the delay that we had, but it deserves a try, and it was very great to have those quotes with you. Thank you so much for having tried. And I want as well to thank the FAO, who have given to us some questions, the last three ones that we have asked. And you may see them tomorrow morning for a keynote, but I will tell you more about that right after. We've got Muriel first speaking about the problem statements.
Thank you, Valentine. Thank you for all these questions and answers. It was very interesting. I hope that most of you got some relevant information about, the figures. As you know, some of these figures are scary. So we need to join that global effort to make sure that we are going to improve the situation. Thank you, Valentine. Thank you so much. So who's next now?
Well, I'm next. Hello, everyone. I'm Muriel from the Free Spirit Foundation. I'm here to talk to you about the problem statements. Now that you know a bit more about wildlife and combating poaching, thanks to all our speakers, Antoinette, Peter, Jenna. So we're going now to the heart of the matter. And we know you're obviously very eager to know them. We are very thrilled because as you will see, there are many different problem statements, various problem statements, and thanks to our partners who have done tremendous work elaborating them with us. So in total, just to let you know, we have 10 of them, 5 global problem statements, and 5 European focused problem statements. So I think just Valentine, if you could go back on the, yeah, perfect, thank you. The first one, so the first one, again, it has disappeared. Valentine, if you can just put the screen again. Thank you.
Oh, Valentine.
Okay. Well,
yeah, there is an issue, I think. Are you able to share your screen, Muriel?
Well, I don't know. Well, it seems to be working now.
You don't see my screen when I share it?
We saw it, but after it was changing. Yes, now we can see it, but it was changing. So, yes. The first one is a very hot topic, unfortunately, because as you may know, a majority of emerging infectious diseases with pandemic potential do originate from wildlife trafficking and consumption, which can be for food or for medicine. Among them, we have the current COVID-19 pandemic, unfortunately. And indeed, the presence of various species on deregulated markets, various species which should not have been brought together and which are most of the time illegal, act as hotbeds because the disease spreads to humans with these kind of markets. Also, as far as the habitat is concerned, we have the human encroachment, which means that the human presence is spreading into a wildlife habitat. So also this brings about risks because some wild animals are more in contact with humans, which would not have happened. So here, with this problem statement proposed by USAID and the Office of Evaluation Sciences, the challenge will be to evaluate a criteria, to evaluate criteria and elaborate a risk profile and imagine a decision-making tool in order to intervene and have these wildlife markets stop. That was for the first one. Can you move on to the second, please? Yes, so thank you. The second one focuses on the organization in themselves who are trafficking wildlife products. Indeed, these organizations are most of the time quite complex. They are involving many different people. It's really difficult to identify these leverage points, to synthesize a huge amount of data, such as car registrations of organizations, these financial transactions, also the people, the informant people. So it's quite difficult to have such data. So here, the challenge to tackle these organizations would be to conceive a tool to automate pre-processing, ingestion, and of complex data to help investigators and to give them valuable information. So that was the second one. Moving on to the third one, the third global one. So the third one is about tracked animal groups data. Indeed, there are many animal populations which are vulnerable to poaching, but they are tracked already to some degree with colored or tagged individuals, for instance. The objective here is really to identify, help identify when and where these groups are threatened, and this will enable better targeted interventions on their behalf to help tackle poaching. So here, the challenge, what we expect of you, is to create a herd behavior identifier algorithm, which will allow ingest this information and match them with a list of poaching incidents to better track these incidents. So that was for the third one. Moving on with the fourth. The fourth one actually is quite complementary to the first problem statement about marketplaces, but this one is really focused on online markets, because now with the COVID context, the physical wildlife markets are quite under scrutiny or either suspended. And so sellers are turning to online marketplaces and social media platforms, which allow more direct connections with sellers, but also because this allow a more international trade, this multiplies chances to spread the disease, because some sellers are able to send internationally the products, the animals, sometimes by air flights. So here, the idea is really to develop a tool that will identify and alert the sales taking place, especially on social media platform, on one social media platform and one language as a starting point, because it can be afterwards extended to other social media and languages. And I think that the language proposed were Arabic, English, French, Portuguese, and Vietnamese. But you will have all the details on the problem statement, the document, which we will have afterwards. Moving on with the last problem statement, global problem statement. This one is this time about wildlife habitat in itself. Indeed, the increasing demand for forest-based products has a consequence, because it brings about illegal logging, illegal forest exploitation, and this, of course, affects directly wildlife survival. So what we would like to do with this problem statement is creating a modern, of course, technology-based solution to help enforcement agencies monitor, record, and report illegal logging activities. in a potentially large area, large geographical area, which is quite a challenge, actually. And these solutions can definitely include the ability to identify illegal logging activities with technology such as drone or satellite imagery or audio detection. This was for the last global problem statement. Now, moving on with the European-focused ones. The first one is about reptiles trade and more specifically about Australian monitor lizards, as Antoinette from IUCN Netherlands already introduced in our presentation. Indeed, as other species, the Australian lizards are banned from commercial international trade. This trade is only permitted for really specific and non-commercial reasons, and even if accompanied with CITES permits. CITES is the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species, which regulates the international trade in flora and fauna. But quite often, these lizards, this trade of lizard doesn't show any proof of legality. So, and also some individuals are born in Europe after parents, after they were being illegally imported. So the challenge here is really to develop an algorithm which will be capable to automate the search for the sites and identify the origin of traded animals and match both information. So the idea would be to have to match both sorts of information. Yes, so that was it for this first European one. The second European problem statement is also proposed by IUCN Netherlands. This one is about Europe as a major illegal wildlife trade hub. Major because Europe is a major market, is one of the source region is a source region for such traffic, because currently seizures are made of such products in Europe, but it's not enough. Majority of the seizures are done in 5 countries currently. 79% were made by France, Germany, the UK, Spain, and the Netherlands. So the idea would be to help do these seizures also in other European countries. Indeed, good insight on the demand in European markets can help predict the routes, such as air flights to have the animals come to Europe, and the nature of species that will be targeted by traffickers. So the idea is really to predict the sourcing and the demand. So this problem statement is double, actually, because the challenge will be to identify, to build an algorithm and identify the demand, the nature of the demand, but also the routes that are taken to bring the animals in Europe. So quite a challenge. Moving on to the third European one. This one is about detecting and tracking the species in themselves. Indeed, species population, the trends are really, really important, because having such measure can give a current state of overall ecosystem health. But this measure is quite complex to get, as there are lots of varieties of living creatures, of animals, and there is no single measure that can capture all the changes at a glance. So, as you heard in the presentation, in introduction by our partners, it's really critical to develop a tool which can help scientists, animal experts, and also non-profit organizations to identify the numbers of individuals for the threatened species remaining in their natural environment. So the idea here is to conceive and develop a software application thanks to extrapolation of numbers to be able to build a forecast model on the remaining animals in nature. So yes, that's quite a broad problem statement as well. Moving on to the fourth European one. This one targets specific audience. It's a specific audience because it's our children. So the future of humanity, it's so important to raise awareness on them, on the importance of wildlife protection, and to raise awareness that some species are on the brink of extinction. So after that, they can forge opinion and have good habits and a good perspective and want to protect wildlife. We think it's really important because currently some children have only minimal connection to nature or only through screens. So we think that putting them as actors of wildlife preservation by developing an interactive game would clearly has a really lasting impression of them, because they would be really actors of wildlife protection. So what we encourage you to do is to so develop an interactive game and propose entertaining but also obviously pedagogic content. You can use full motion video, live action footage in order to raise an awareness on children. And we are arrived now to the last problem statement, which also addresses for us critical targets, public awareness in general. It's really interesting because I saw that in the chat and questions were asked about raising awareness. How is it important? We think it's really important because the citizens will be the ones to also fight against wildlife trafficking. And what we propose with this problem statement is to focus on cities, because now more and more people are living in towns, in urban environments, and also can lack of this link with nature. So we think that the city and several means of communication in it, such as dynamic billboards, public transport, or websites or apps, can be a real good way to address the citizens. And it can also offer citizens valuable information and practical solution to protect wildlife. So the idea is to provide cities a turnkey solution, which can be implemented in many sources, in a dynamic billboard, as I said, transport, to give citizens this really critical and important information. So that was our last problem statement. I hope that this summarized short presentation was clear to you, that you were attentive to them, because you will have to choose your problem statement and to declare it on DevPost at before 11 p.m. So just after that, you will find the problem statement in DevPost as well as in Discord to see the details, because I have made a summarize, but you have also a lot of resources and data, and very interesting data on the documents which you will have access to. And if you have questions, do not hesitate. Also, you will have mentors tomorrow and Sunday will help you. So I hope this was clear. I now leave you in good hands with Valentine, who will give you more details about the agenda of the weekend. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Marielle. Indeed, guys, I know this was a long ceremony, and we gave you a lot of information, but let me give you quick last information, very important one, about what this hackathon will actually happen. What is the organization actually? You should probably all ask that. So, as you may know, for today, we had this opening ceremony should have ended at 7, nearly. Anyway, you have a very good, very important mission tonight, and I want you to have that clear. Please have intention. You should choose tonight your problem statement. Today, it's beginning right now as a competition. I hope you are all with us. You have until 11 today to answer a survey. Let me show you quickly the survey. If I may. Here you have the survey. So this is your survey for the day. Until 11, please answer this survey. You have the problem statement now on Discord and DevPost. So feel free to watch them in team, all of you. Then give us your name, your problem statement, and as well the IT skills that you are looking for into a mentor. Because maybe we can allocate the right mentor, the right IT mentor for the thing that you are looking for. It depends on your problem statement. It depends on your skills. So make the right choice. You've got until 11 tonight. Otherwise, well, we will allocate you randomly your team, your mentors and specialists. But anyway, it's not a big problem, but it will be better. Obviously, it doesn't allow it's not forbidden after to compete, but it will be better. So please answer it before 11 tonight. Then what's happening tomorrow? The hackathon begins at 8 in the morning, and it will go through until 11 in the night. So big day for you tomorrow and for all of us. We're gonna have live stream, so you will be supported by professionals that can give you tips all along the day. We have very, very high level guys who will come to talk to you. So feel free to join. We will give you each time the link of the YouTube live at that one. So feel free to join. It can give you at least some more information, provide you some more information. What's happening tomorrow about the lives. We've got Hélène Lecomte, our vice president in the Free Spirit Foundation, who will give you a kick-off words. And then a very interesting presentation from the IFAW, Cybercrime Coalition and Cyber Sporter Program with Eleonora Panella, Senior Campaigner in IFAW Europe, and Lionel Ashman, Wildlife Campaigner in IFAW France. Then a presentation, a live stream from Microsoft, and thank you so much for participating, with Andrea Figibert, CEE Philanthropy Lead. All those times are in CET. Please pay attention about that. Another for that one, it won't be a live, but it's a Zoom meeting, so you can all of you join. Obviously, we have not any limits. From Interpol, with Marco Fodi, Program Manager, Illicit Market Subdirectorate, and Henri Fournel, Coordinator, Environmental Security, Organized and Emerging Crime Directorate. And And then the last one at 11, the US Embassy in Paris, Jessica Webster, will give you a final word for the day. And I hope at that time you will have very gone on your solutions. But you are not alone in that competition. We will provide for you very skillful people, a very big squad of high-level skillful mentors. We've got IT mentors. They will be with you 1 hour and a half in Saturday, three times a day, 30 minutes. You will be able to see the different schedule with themselves and us. Wildlife specialist, 1 hour, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon. They will give you as well some tips about, well, is your solution relevant for the problem statement? We should have some information about that. And then as well, you have the chance to be supported by communication specialists. Communication specialists will be there to watch your delivery. Actually, we will speak about your delivery right after, but you will need to have tips to know if it's clear, if it's understandable, if it's the right word. I tell you, you won't be able to pitch your solution in front of a jury. It will be only your delivery. So use the right words, use the right terms, be determinative, sell your solution, sell your product to the judge, and the communication specialists are here for that. Then the Sunday, the second day and last day, it will be the hard part of the competition because it's the last time you have to produce your solutions and pay attention. The hackathon shifts are from 7 a.m. until 12 p.m., midday, noon, okay? You have to produce your solution before noon. So pay attention before noon, CET times, I tell you. So give on DevPost, we will give you the link right after. You have to register on DevPost, all of you, to upload your solution at midday. This is a deadline. It's very important. And then we have the examination of your proposal from midday to 5 and the closing ceremony at 5 p.m. To give you the winners of the competition. Obviously, the mentors will be there for you as well. The IT mentors, if you need so, and a communication specialist, 30 minutes. The communication specialist will provide you 30 minutes of their time, either on Saturday, either on Sunday. So regarding how you will move on in your proposals, you may need them on Saturday or on Sunday. We will figure out that together to provide you the best support that you need. We're gonna have after during the assessment period some more information, some more very interesting live stream. The US Embassy, Christopher Snipes, Counselor for Environment, Science, Technology and Health Affairs. Thank you very much for your intervention. And another one from Sarah Regragui, which is Specialist Ethics in IA, very interesting topic. IT to consider biosphere, Jonathan Jovem is a data scientist in Avanade, but as well a Free Spirit member. And our program IT for the Planet, I remind you, you have all been involved now in our program IT for the Planet. The technology is here to help, and we have to find solution all together for that. Laure David will give you more information about that. This is our General Secretary of the Free Spirit Foundation. I give you as well the schedule of our support team. They are here for you. I remind you, this is the dark blue team on Discord. If you have any troubles using Discord, calling your mentors, calling each other, sharing screens, or either on DevPost, feel free to join them. They are very nice, very available for us, and I thank you so much them. So here are the schedule. There are the IAE Gustave Eiffel Management School. Thank you so much, and a special thanks to Philippe Lepinard, which is with us in that call now because he's doing the technique for me. So a special thanks because you and your students are very awesome. Well, about the format of the delivery, what you should provide to us, this is very crucial, please pay attention. You have to produce one pitch summary, trilines, abstract, or one slide recap about your whole solution. This is a kind of introduction, but as well, a slide presentation, five slides maximum to present the concept, the process, etc. A video, 3 minutes maximum to give further information. Feel free to be imaginative, demo, examples, mock-up, theater improvisation, what you want, but we want a video as well. So a pitch summary, a slide presentation, a video, you have to hand over the 3 of them, and appendix if you want to give optional information. It's optional. It's not compulsory, but if you want, it can be as well interesting. The content of your delivery, what we are of your proposal, what we are expecting from you, the presentation of the project. Just for the record, you will have all this presentation in Discord right after this live. No worries. So the presentation of the project, what you have selected as problem statement, your team, the name of the solution, be creative. The communication specialist can help for that. What are the objectives of your solution? What is the solution? What is for who are that made? What is the technique that you're gonna use? Visuals, architecture, technology news, data involved. Just to make sure we won't ask you to have a full script completely done and coding fully prepared, but at least try to have something justified, explained, clarified, frugal. Our IT mentors will help for that, obviously. Relevance. Easy solution is very important for the problem statement that I have chosen. That it will help wildlife trafficking, fighting against wildlife trafficking, have positive or negative impacts. Feel free to ask those questions to our wildlife specialists. They are here for that. And the resources that you need for this solution, financial, time, everything, data, partners. So give further information for that. For the assessment part, how it will be chosen by, how can we be the winner, basically. First, there is 2 phases. A pre-selection review. We have a pre-selection committee made to look after all your presentations. You are 29 teams, so we need a full committee for that, 29 people to look after your solution. All deliveries, all proposals will be reviewed, but they will select 10 teams only to go on the final. At 2 p.m., we will publish the 10 finalists of this competition. 10 finalists will be reviewed by the jury, the final jury. We've got Peter and Antoinette in this call that in this opening ceremony, they are part of the jury, for instance, and they will decide the 3 winners that we're going to have. For this pre-selection phase that I talked about, we've got as a grid of assessment grid, an administrative compliance. Are you returned on time your proposal? I told you this is noon CET on dev post. Is the length of the delivery right? Is the language correct? It's English, I remind you. Do you respect the 4 parts of the delivery? Is it topic related? The content consistency. We have a communication professional who will just make sure that it's understandable, it's intelligible. Well, this is important. Then, is it wildlife linked? We have wildlife specialists in our as preselectors. Is it relevant for poaching and wildlife illegal trafficking situation? And technically suitability by IT experts. We've got technical people in this preselector committee, and they will see if there is comments on your code, if the script is clear, if it's efficient and doable. And then after all this grid, they will decide the 10 solutions selected to be presented to our final jury. The final phase, the jury will select after these 10 propositions from 2 to 5. They will look into the details very carefully about the presentation, about the design, about the technique, the development of the project, not development, coding development of the project, financial, marketing, technical, commercial. Well, is it doable to do your solution? Because if we want really to make it on the market, because we want to, I remind you, this is something that we want to use for animals. This is very practical. We need to use wildlife. We need to help wildlife. Is it doable? So is the development quite possible? And the expected impact. The members of our jury, Fabrice Banyanyaka, which is in this call, Antoinette Sprenger is in this call as well. Sorry, Fabrice is the founder and the president of the Free Spirit Foundation. Antoinette, senior expert environmental justice, EUCN Netherlands. Thank you, Antoinette, for being there. Dr. Peter Leing-Gruberger, head of Conservation Ecology Center at the Smithsonian Institute. Haki Salmi, web developer and software engineer. Christopher Snips, we should have his presentation as well on Sunday, remember? Counselor for Environment, Science, Technology and Health Affairs. Olivier Robinet, French Ministry of Ecology, directeur des échanges internationaux à la Direction des Affaires européennes et internationales. And Mitz Van Looy, International Relations Officer, SITS and EU Wildlife Trade Regulation, European Commission. Thank you so much for these 7 members. We've got a next one, the citizen vote. Actually, the citizen vote, it's not a proper jury, it's a consultation, but it may make the difference because it can help the jury to have a, well, if they are hesitating between 3 winners, if the citizen votes are saying that, yes, this is definitely what we need, because all people can be involved and can be interested by protecting wildlife. So feel free to share the link that we're gonna provide to you at 2:30 on Sunday. This will be a survey about all the or the 10 finalists. This is why the pitch is so important, because we're gonna share the pitch parts to all your friends, families, friends. If your solution is in the 10th finalist, and you can rise as the audience, the public for you, it can make the difference. So we're gonna show you the link, and you can share it to your related. And the 3 winners obviously will be decided after that. We've got 3 prizes for you. For the first place, it will be a trip to Paris for all team members, 3 days, 2 nights, transportation and accommodation included. Ticket for the concert Imaginarium. Imaginarium is a concert done by the Free Spirit Foundation, and all the benefits of this concert are going to the reforestation. We are planting trees around the world and each benefit that we are doing for this concert is going to the soil reforestation for planting trees. So it's a very important event for us. It's gonna be held the 20th of March in Paris à la Scène Musicale. So you will be able to attend if you win. One ticket for le Louvre and one ticket for le Jardin des Plantes. Then one trip to Zimbabwe, Kenya, because we've got sanctuaries partners of the Free Spirit there. We are sending them funds to be able to carry on protecting wildlife. So we are gonna see them to help to see if everything all right. So one member of the team will be able to join us to see this sanctuary. And one invitation to our summit, Recréer le futur, Rebuild the Future, which will be held in Paris in October 2021, a big summit to make together all solutions to bring up what we can do to make for our children a better planet. And you will be able to pitch your solution there. The second place, it's laptops for everyone. And the third place, you will have t-shirts of our program, Inaudible Voices. Inaudible Voices, it's a program that we are doing to protecting wildlife and endangered species. So it's very, very important part of our work in the Free Spirit Foundation. And our book about Imaginarium, behind the scene, the show that I talked to you earlier. I want to have a special thanks for our sponsor, Bawak Bank, which has allowed you give us 1,500 euros for those price, and it will help. It has helped us to raise a bit these prices for you. So thank you so much to our dear sponsor. But they are not alone. There are many sponsors that we should thank, actually. The Embassy, Ecological, IUCN, IFAO, EUR, and so on. Thank you so much to be with us, to make this event working all together. And we are very, very glad to be with you and to organize this event. So it's a great honor, and we hope you're gonna all enjoy this experience as much as we will. Feel free to follow us on the social media as well. We're gonna share the event all along the weekend, so you can react and we can keep in touch. Well, thank you so much. This is the end of this long opening ceremony. Fabrice, maybe you want to have a final word?
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much, Valentine, for all this information. First of all, I would like to say that, we have amazing prizes. And as you can imagine, some of these prizes might change due to the current situation, especially with the pandemic, right? So just to let you know, guys, that yes, we are going to keep the same value, no doubt. So just to give you more information about it, the first prize, the value, the cash value is about $7,500. For the second team, it's about $3,000. And for the third one, $1,500, right? So yes, we propose you to make some very, very interesting travels with the Free Spirit Foundation coming to Paris, but we are going definitely to adapt the prices depending on the situation across Europe, as you can imagine, right? Anyway, you will see this information on the DevPost. So what's next? So within the next few minutes, within the next 20 or 30 minutes, you will receive the link of DevPost. You need all of you, all the participants, it's mandatory. You need to register on DevPost. Otherwise, you will not be eligible to the prices. Okay, so it means that you will be able to download, to have a look on all the statement, to download it, and to discuss with your colleagues, to find out the global statement or the European statement that you would like to choose for the next 2 days. It was very interesting. I got some feedback from our partners. Thank you again for joining this event. I got feedback from participants, from our partners, and it seems that this session was very interesting. On my side, I learned a lot of great information about, the current situation. The objective of that kind of content is, again, to raise awareness and to make sure that we can help people to change their day-to-day behavior as well. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that it was the case for some of you. Good quality. So guys, it's up to you now. Just have fun together. I would like to say as a final word, thank you so much to the Free Spirit Foundation team. You have worked so hard since a few weeks ago now, and I'm very, very, very proud of you. So thank you so much for all the work. And thank you to our main partner, the US Embassy in France and the US Department of State as well, for your trust regarding the organization of that event. So from now, feel free to connect with the Free Spirit Foundation team. Thank you, Philip, and the IAE Business School for your support. It was amazing. So I know that you have worked a lot. It was a big challenge. So I think that it was okay. Honestly, it is my feeling on my side. So from now, we are going to start. We are going to close the call. And yeah, thank you for being part of it. Thank you, guys, and good night. Thank you. Let's connect on Discord now. So let's connect on the collaboration tool. Thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you so much.